You know me, I like my shooters to be sci-fi and I like my horrors to be indie. So imagine my luck when I come across an indie horror game on Steam that's also a sci-fi FPS. Not that there's too many of these sci-fi horrors left lying around these days, not since Quake bit the dust and Doom is off in its own circle of hell, just leaving Dead Space as the only worthy one, which even EA has managed to balls up. So I guess it's down to the indie devs of the world to pick up the pieces and to remind us of what the good games used to be like. Oh, and Alien Isolation was pretty good too. Speaking of indie devs reminding us of the better times, we have this time around Dead Effect, which has nothing to do with Mass Effect or Dead Space, but is a sci-fi FPS indie horror by the Czech development team Badfly Interactive. The game started out as a mobile game, but has since then been ported to PC and Mac and... What? Hey, wait, come back! Look, just because it's a mobile port doesn't mean this is going to be crap. I know what a lot of you are wondering right now, and that's, what on earth were you expecting by playing a mobile port of an Underground game? And to be fair, I was kind of thinking that to begin with too. I've since then become a member of Opus Dei, just so that I have an excuse to whip myself for thinking such unjustified thoughts. Dead Effect was much better than I thought it was going to be, and no one is more surprised about that than I am. Not that I thought it was going to be crap, but I kept having flashbacks of Deus Ex The Fall when I started up Dead Effect for the first time. You are either a burly white dude or a tough military chick, whichever you fancy. You've awoken on board your spaceship in the not too distant future, only to find that the zombie horde has taken up residence all over the place, and there's practically no one else in sight. So it's your job to kill zombies and figure out what the hell just happened. As you progress through the campaign, you'll come into contact with loads and loads of zombies, and no one else, aside from the game's antagonist, who serves as a plot device more than anything else. That's the plot in a nutshell, and to be honest, I doubt that anyone is going to play this game for the story, so let's get on to the crucial stuff. Firstly, the gameplay. As said, this is a sci-fi FPS, so almost the entire game is spent shooting zombies, as well as the odd bit of mini-game code hacking. It has to be said that the actual gunplay is solid in this game. Using the guns is easy enough, and getting headshots and seeing the enemy's head literally explode feels good. Damn good! There's plenty of zombies about the place too, so the chances of you getting bored and nodding off are slim to none in this game. There are a few different weapons to play about with too. The starting weapon is a power glove of sorts that shoots out an electric current at short range, killing the enemy. There are side weapons such as a pistol and a magnum revolver, an assault rifle, a shotgun, which you should never use under any circumstance because it has a reload time that takes about as long as it does to eat a sandwich, some different types of grenades, and should you spend enough time with the game, then you can purchase other high-end weapons such as a minigun and a chainsaw. You also get a Fear-style bullet time mode that slows down the enemy's movement, making it a lot easier for you, but you'll never need to use it unless you're playing on the harder difficulty setting, because you'll be tripping over ammo the entire time, and zombies tend to shuffle towards you slowly anyway. You'll also get to upgrade your physical abilities, like how fast you run or how much health you have, and though these upgrades very rarely make a noticeable difference to your performance, it's quite a nice little addition here that a lot of recent games don't even include. You know what this game does include though? A health bar. And what has it taken away from the game? Nothing. And what has it added to the game? A bit of extra tension that old FPS games used to have. Though there is an option to enable auto heal, which you should never opt for because we're doing this properly, you can recharge your health at health stations a lot like the ones in System Shock 2. I found having health bars was a much better way of going about the place because it made you even more on edge and involved in the game when you're close to death. Shit, I've got to be careful around here and not f*** about, otherwise I'll get killed. That is the attitude we should all be taking in our shooters. It's what we used to think, and it made us take the game more seriously, rather than, I like my games to be realistic, so when I get shot, I'll go around the corner and catch my breath for a few seconds, before heading back into the fight with full health like nothing happened. Like all modern shooters do, with the exception of Wolfenstein The New Order, of course. Sorry, went off track there for a second, but hey, this video isn't called Rants for nothing. If I had to describe the gameplay, I'd say that it's like Painkiller, if it was set in the Doom 3 universe. The environment is very, very Doom 3-esque, but as each level is structured around starting the level, gunning your way through loads of zombies, and then finishing the level later on, I'd say that it resembles Painkiller a lot too. Not that there's anything wrong with just killing enemies, because Painkiller showed us how fun it still is, and to some extent, Dead Effect does homage to that type of gameplay as well. Enemies are varied too, with some posing more of a threat to you than others, though I found the enemies to either be a joy to fight or a pain in the arse. Killing normal enemies never gets old in this game, due to the head explosions and such, and the dudes that crawl on the floor are fun to fight too. The soldiers that throw grenades, however, can f*** right off. Though I like the idea of zombies with projectiles, this one was more annoying than anything else. Mainly because their grenades are insta-kills, and there's no way of telling if a grenade has been thrown when fighting against a crowd. It probably would have helped out the player a bit had there been a grenade indicator that appeared on screen, because then we know at least to run away as soon as possible, because getting killed after that would be our own downfall for not having a brain, rather than the game dishing out some cheap deaths. Speaking of cheap deaths, I did notice that if you die, you can pay to respawn exactly where you were, which is a good idea, I thought at first, but this doesn't always work out well for the player, especially if those grenade throwers are still around, because I swear to God, I got killed by one of them, respawned around the corner, and then got killed almost immediately again by the same guy, and this happens on more than one occasion. The enemy AI is also a bit hit and miss. Now, I understand that we're dealing with zombies here, so having them all shuffle towards me slowly and in single file isn't much of an issue here. And in fact, this will often lull you into a false sense of security, as one slowly shuffles towards you, only to then break into a manic sprint that will catch you off guard and make you run away screaming. Those moments were thoroughly enjoyable. But the times where the immersion was broken was when I'd have a group of zombies after me, so I'd jump into a small lift and take it up one floor, and look over the balcony, only to see that all of the zombies down there had all come down with a case of the f***ums, like they'd all just given up on the idea of looking for me. They must be the fussiest zombies ever if they only attack people on their level. Guess what this game does have, however? Boss fights! Yeah, remember those? They used to be a staple element back in the day of proper FPS games, but nowadays they're all gone. Again, except for Wolfenstein. So what a breath of fresh air it was to finally get put up against some real mean motherfuckers for a change. And no, none of these boss fights were even remotely difficult, but it did break things up a little, and offer us something that you just don't seem to see very often nowadays. But guess what's not in this game? Jumping. Not that you'll ever need it, because presumably it was designed that way and jumping is an awkward thing to pull off in a mobile game. So it stands to reason that a direct PC port would also not have jumping in it, but the thing is that you notice it right away, and it's something that's very hard to accept when it's something we've all taken for granted for so many years. The next thing I have to mention are the graphics. They're surprisingly good, I have to say. Play a few levels of this game and you'd be surprised that this started out as a mobile game. Great textures, great lighting effects, the enemies look revolting, and that's a good thing seeing as they're all zombies. And the game's atmosphere is very reminiscent of both Doom 3 and Quake 4, though not quite living up to those same standards. But considering that those games were blockbuster AAA titles, and Dead Effect is a first attempt by an indie development team, then colour me impressed. The sounding and audio was also pretty good, with an eerie soundtrack that manages to capture the mood of the game quite well. I did notice, however, that the speech sound level was a little too low, meaning that it was difficult to hear what each character was saying, despite me having already turned the music level down and the voice level up. And, as this is a first attempt by an indie development team, there are bugs here, there and everywhere like a mattress in a skip. Pause the game during a cutscene, and you'll find that the audio just keeps on going. Unpausing it will then force you to watch a mute cutscene, because the game's already done the audio part. And I also found that during the moments when your character uses a bed, if you pause the game during this mini cutscene, you can see how the rest of the game sees you, just a pair of disembodied arms, and it's funny. I've also found a strange way of moving around the map quicker, and that's by walking diagonally. You will only move slightly quicker than normal, but I thought that was weird. Another weird thing I found is when you come to open lockers. Lockers are scattered about the place and contain either ammo, money, or info tablets. Or sometimes a severed head, but to open them you need to mash the spacebar to fill up a gauge. But I noticed that the size of this actual bar differs from level to level. Not that I'm saying you need to mash the spacebar more, but I'm talking about the aspect ratio of the actual bar. Sometimes it's smaller and sometimes it's bigger. Having said that, actually opening one of these lockers is hilarious. Looks like you're humping the damn thing open. This guy literally must have balls of steel. Though this next thing might seem like a criticism, it's going to act as a positive too, but the campaign was way too short. There are 12 missions in total in story mode, and each can be done in less than 20 minutes. Probably in about 10 minutes if you knew where you're going. I finished my first run through in under 3 hours and I wasn't even full, so it's a shame that there weren't more levels. And the ending was so damn sudden too. You kill the main dude, and then it's like the game suddenly got, like, super self-aware and wanted everyone to stop looking at it. This game clearly is not some piece of cheap shit that a group of people with no clue of how to make a video game decided to throw together. You can tell that love and effort went into making this game, but the ending really did just feel damn cheap and lazy. It would have been great to have had more levels that featured some different environments, but there you go. Dead Effect does try to add in some replay value though. Different difficulties to try out, and seriously, if you're going to play this game, then play it on any setting higher than normal, because I flew through that mode without ever having to use bullet time mode, but found the Hell difficulty much more enjoyable. There's also New Game Plus, so you can carry over your previous weapons, weapon upgrades, cash, and physical upgrades too. There are also 2 additional modes to try out, Survival and Biohazard. Survival puts you in a small map where you're forced to hold off against multiple waves of enemies for a certain amount of time, and Biohazard gets you doing what is essentially the exact same thing. Sure, Survival is more about the surviving and Biohazard is more about the killing, but when you stop and look at both of them as a whole, you see that they're pretty much the same mode, so pick your favourite and stick with that. Or alternatively, you'll get way more fun just by replaying different missions over again, rather than playing the additional modes. Don't get me wrong, they're not bad and they work fine, it's just... well, one of them didn't need to be there is all. In conclusion, Dead Effect was a nice surprise, and turned out to be a quite good little indie shooter. It's not going to be the next big thing, I don't think it was ever supposed to be anyway. However, Dead Effect is something to break up the rest of the games you're probably playing now, and for you to have a little bit of fun with it. If you just want to ditch all of your other games for a while, or just take a break from them so you can just go around mindlessly killing tons and tons of zombies without so much as a second thought, then Dead Effect is going to be right up your alley. As of when this video was released, you can buy it on Steam for £5.59 if you're a UK citizen, or roughly $8.50 if you're on the American continent. Sorry for the rest of you watching this worldwide if I didn't mention how much it is in your specific currency, but I'd be here all day if that was the case. And to be honest, I'd say that it's worth the asking price. It's not a big game, but then again, that's not a big price tag. Hopefully there'll be some patches and updates coming out as the months go by that will polish the game a little bit more, maybe some free DLCs or something, but even in the state that I played it in, it still was a rather entertaining game, so I'm going to give this one a cool manly thumbs up. And I should probably rename this series if I keep recommending the games that appear on it.
I swear sometimes I think this life is killing me.